Yo, what's going on? I appreciate everybody for tuning in. My lighting off. It's a little dark in here. I I was fooling around with these cameras. All right, there you go. I appreciate everybody for tuning in. I'm Marcus here. We do attorney reactions to trending news, current events, and all that good stuff. As always, hey, I'm appreciative of everybody who tunes in and support the channel. I never ask for super chats and all that stuff. Only thing I ask is if you're in here, hit the like button for the algorithm. And if you get some value out of it, like, share, subscribe, comment, all of that good stuff. But I'm greatly appreciative of you all allowing me the opportunity to just talk about things that are going on. Now, I'm gonna start this video out by saying that people are already probably gonna be mad at me. I know. I know. As soon as I put the word inadmissible in the thumbnail, I was like, "Uh oh, here we go. I'm about to get a bunch of angry emails." But hey, I try to just tell y'all what it is, what's going on, what all of the outcomes could potentially be. So if you want to go, if you want to hear me just talk about something from one side, that's probably not going to happen because I mean it's never one side to anything. That's just kind of how it goes. So I'm just giving that caveat. Also, another caveat: hey, we're going to be talking about some things in the SA category that YouTube doesn't like. So we may talk about and or hear some things that could be triggering. Fair warning: I'm putting it out there so everyone knows in advance. Finally, the last thing I want to say is this. This is a disclaimer for me. Shout out to you all. A round of applause to everybody. Y'all already in the chat. Y'all was already in the chat early. y'all was in the chat early, ready to give me the business on this should definitely be admissible. But shout out to everybody in the chat early. There were so many people in the chat early. I can't just give it to one person. Yeah. Okay, just going through some of the comments. I'm gonna just throw them up on the screen so people can see. Marcus, why are you trying to upset me on this wonderful Wednesday? I'm not trying to upset you. I'm just letting y'all know what all the things that have to go in it. Because I will say, uh, in Illinois, in Nevada, I'm gonna just give you general context of how the law regarding recordings work. And I'm gonna give a little bit of a background. I'm not diving into the full complaint because I've been there, done that. I'll put the link to that video probably in the pinned comment. It is at least proof of them displaying someone in a vulnerable state without their consent because she was sleeping. That's bad enough, and there has to be some law against that. We're gonna talk about it. Don't get mad at me in advance, y'all. I already know. I already know I'm gonna get hate emails on this one. Like, man, why you keep trying to help them out? I'm not helping anybody out. I'm just telling y'all what the law is. Now, I'm gonna try to keep this as structured. What's going on, Kathy? I appreciate you tuning in. Kenneth, my guy, I appreciate you, brother, for tuning in. Maddie, I see you. Lady Red, Shadow Seeker, what is going on? That is a one person law. Kinda. See, I'm already it's kinda a one person law. You got it. It's kinda a one person law. I'm not from the. I had to look it up. I don't practice there. I had to look it up because I wanted to make sure I was telling accurate information. AP, while the recorded evidence may be admissible in court, the officer's testimony will be pivotal in establishing credibility and context. Hey, shout out to AP and all the co-counsel who are always on their job. Literally, if it's a conversation that the witness on the stand had personally, there are other ways that this conversation can come into court without using a recording. With that being said, the disclaimer for that I got to put out there for me, I already know how everybody feel about this, but I got to say it as my own personal legal disclaimer. What did I do? Hold on. I think I jacked something up. Okay, I got to say this is my own personal legal disclaimer. Okay. This is an audio recording that we're going to listen to. This audio recording has not been authenticated. Authenticated has a specific legal definition. We need to be able to authenticate the authenticity of this recording, whose voice it is, how was it recorded, was it edited in any way. So This audio recording we're listening to, for purpose of this, is an audio recording of a rando person. You all interpret that how you want to when we put it in the context with everything. Hey, I know when you listen to the recording and when you listen to the facts, you're gonna be like, hey, it may sound a certain way to me, but for purposes of this video, we have no clue who is on this audio recording because it hasn't been legally authenticated yet. And I'll just leave that there. You always got to toss those disclaimers out there. Yeah, you should never assume a police officer is not expected to be a mandated reporter of a crime. That's fair. Hey, a lot of people see stuff happen all the time and just like, I'm gonna leave it alone. But let's go ahead and queue up some of the videos so we can just get some context first. All right. I think the background, the context, most of y'all probably know the background and the context, but it could be some people in here who don't know what's going on. So I'm gonna just queue up a few news articles that'll put everything in context. It's actually a lot going on. I got too many notes that I would like to have for a YouTube video, and it still wasn't enough because it's just so many things I could talk about. How a recording could impact a criminal investigation, what would be the admissibility in a criminal proceeding and a civil proceeding. It was just so much stuff. So I got a lot here. I'm gonna try to do it off the cuff in a structured way. Your boy had to go to the 9 to 5 today, wasn't working from the crib, so I couldn't get it structured as good as how I would like, but we're gonna try to go ahead and fight through it. All right, let's go ahead and get this up on the screen so we can jump into the videos, just so everybody can get a background as to what's going on.
Better known for his work as a crisis responder helping victims of gun violence, Andrew Holmes has also served for several years as a trustee in the village of Dalton. Holmes is now named in a civil lawsuit filed Monday by a Dalton police officer and former member of Mayor Tiffany Henayrd's security detail, as well as a former village employee who believes she was sexually assaulted by Holmes. We are withholding her identity because of the nature of the allegations, which are now, according to 4 Dalton trustees, part of what former Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot will take on in her new job as special investigator into Mayor Henayrd's tenure.
She will be looking at it in a civil manner to give the board an idea. This is not a criminal matter that she's looking at it from that perspective.
The complaint says the alleged incident took place during a trip to Las Vegas in May of last year that included Henayrd along with various employees from the village and Thornton Township. It was during the last evening of that trip that the complaint alleges police officer Byron Miles received a phone call from Holmes, who began describing a host of his exploits from the trip, many of a sexual nature. And there was some suggestion that she may not have had the ability to consent and or did not provide consent. It is at this point that, according to the complaint, Officer Miles began to record the call, which eventually switched over to FaceTime.
Real quick too, I went through the complaint. That's a whole nother video we did, but I just always find it interesting how they said that there was some suggestion that things may have not went on with a lack of consent. That's just interesting language that jumped out to me back when I first heard this report. But let's go and finish this video up.
Time. Trustee Holmes then panned the camera toward a bed where Officer Miles could see a woman who was partially undressed. The complaint goes on to say that the following day, when the woman in question woke up, she found she was in Trustee Holmes' hotel room, fully dressed. She was embarrassed as she believed she had blacked out. However, it was not, according to the complaint, until their return to Dalton that Officer Miles, suspecting that the alleged victim was not aware of what had transpired, went to her with what he knew. The lawsuit alleges that at a later meeting with the mayor, Henayrd stated if that information got out, Henayrd would be ruined and all of the work she had done would be lost. According to the lawsuit, within weeks, the alleged victim was out of a job and Officer Miles removed from the mayor's security detail. The lawsuit asserts claims against Henayrd for retaliation. While our calls to Andrew Holmes have gone unanswered today, a spokesperson for Tiffany Henayrd said they are cooperating, but would not comment on an ongoing investigation. They did, however, point us to a statement issued a few weeks ago before Holmes was specifically named, saying that the village of Dalton previously conducted their own investigation into the matter. Former
I would love to, just on this too, I would love to see what level of diligence was used for them to do their own investigation. Because I have reason to believe that their investigation was probably some BS. That's just my personal opinion. I can't prove that per se, but they did their own investigation. The village of Dalton. I don't know.
police officer Miles was interviewed and denied knowing anything about these allegations. Also, despite
I don't know. Again, this just makes no sense. I know we do have valid reason uh to be skeptical of the veracity, the truthfulness of things that come out of Tiffany Henyard's mouth. So the fact that she's the site for this, that the officer knew nothing, but yet the officer put it in a court document. Again, that goes to, if they did an investigation at the village of Dalton, I feel relatively sure it probably was half-assed and definitely biased, and that I just don't think anything could be done in a objective manner coming from Tiffany Henayrd. That's just my personal opinion, because it's just so many incidents where just falsehoods have been told for even things that really didn't need to be a falsehood.
numerous attempts by the village's independent investigators to contact the employee, she refused to give a statement or cooperate with our investigation. Unfortunately, this is nothing more than two disgruntled village employees who are trying to make off with the taxpayers' hard-earned dollars.
So you worried about somebody making off with the taxpayers' hard-earned dollars? Crazy.
No criminal charges have been filed against Andrew Holmes, but Las Vegas police do confirm that they have an open investigation into the claims. In Dalton, I'm Michelle Gallardo, ABC7 Eyewitness News.
All right, let's
Watch breaking news on YouTube. Subscribe to ABC7 Chicago Eyewitness News.
Let's go and ride through to the next video. Yeah, this one should be a short one.
And police in Las Vegas have closed their investigation of Dalton Village trustee Andrew Holmes, and no charges will be filed.
And I did a deep dive into why it's likely that they closed their investigation. I'll put the link to all the corresponding videos to the things we're talking about that were already done in the pinned comment, so y'all can find them easy.
Closed their investigation of Dalton Village trustee Andrew Holmes, and no charges will be filed. Holmes was accused of sexually assaulting a former Dalton employee during a village-funded trip to Las Vegas last year. Along with his work as a trustee, Holmes also a well-known victims advocate. The woman publicly made her accusations in a video and appeared at a Dalton Village meeting earlier this year. She's currently suing the village and Holmes, saying she was fired after taking her sexual assault allegations to embattled village mayor Tiffany Henayrd. We've reached out to her and Holmes for comment to that decision by Las Vegas police to close the case.
Watch break.
All right, now real quick before we jump into the next video we're going to hear is the audio call, but we are also going to talk a little bit about the wrongful termination lawsuit. We're going to talk a little bit, I just want to give a little bit of structure. We're going to talk a little bit about applicable rules, and again, this occurred in Nevada, so we have to look at what the law is in Nevada. We're going to talk about some of the applicable rules in Nevada, how these implications, I mean, there's a lot of them. Exclusionary rule, one-party consent, two-party consent, mixed consent, the recording of Zoom calls, suppression, hearsay. Is just a chain of custody. It's just a gang of shit. Hopefully I can put it all into some way that makes sense. But we are going to talk about the criminal matter. We're going to talk about the plaintiff's civil lawsuit, because I think the civil lawsuit is probably a very, very strong case. And I'm gonna just give y'all a little bit of a preview. There's a way you can just use this audio, which is already being done, whether it's admissible or inadmissible. I'll let y'all know which one I think is going to be. But whether it's admissible or inadmissible, even if it was a finding that it's inadmissible, it's the impact of the audio is already out there to taint a jury. So, like, literally, attorneys do this all the time. They'll leak something and they'll link it because it may or may not be admissible, especially if it's inadmissible. Well, let's just go ahead and leak it, and hopefully everybody hear it. So when we selecting our jurors, hopefully all the jurors heard the information that we leaked. And the old saying is, you can't unring a bell. If I ring a bell and it gongs, I can't be like, hey, ignore that bell that you heard. You're gonna be like, okay, I won't take it into consideration, but I know that was a bell that you just rung. So definitely there's a strategy to leaking any type of information that may be admissible, because it could, you technically aren't supposed to do it, but people do it all the time. When we talked about Diddy's case, why do you think the recording of Diddy with Cassie in the hotel was leaked? Like, it wasn't leaked to TMZ, it was leaked to like CNN. So I know it came from that. If it was leaked to TMZ, I was like, maybe the person who had it got rid of it. The fact that it was leaked to CNN, I was like, man, it was some old white guy at the Department of Justice who thought, oh, I'm gonna leak this to CNN because it's a more credible source. But that was leaked. It was outside of the statute of limitations. It was clearly leaked to impact any jury pool that would hear any case regarding Diddy. That's what it was. So now everybody's gonna look at that and be like, man, this dude a liar. He said he did. That's not him. And now we see this video that is him. So things get leaked for strategic reasons. Always keep that in the back of your mind. Let's see. Oh my goodness. It's not funny. It's the circumstances of it. I'm not laughing at, but I'm just like, golly, she put her boyfriend. This dude probably couldn't investigate his way out of a paper bag. That's I don't know if that is in fact the truth. But like I said, if it was an investigation done by anybody coming out of the Henayrd camp, I'm going to look at it with a side eye, because I just don't know the authenticity, how objective and fair and impartial that it was. Some people do investigate. I've worked for judges where it'll be a case coming before them and they'll just give me all the paperwork and everything and be like, just give me a decision and let me know which way I should rule. And I'd be like, okay, cool. I get to look at it objectively, both sides, look at the law, and then I do my own research and be like, oh, this is how it should be. But I work for some judges who would come in and be like, hey, I got this case on X, Y, and Z. I want to rule this way. Write me something to hang my hat on. So I feel, I'm not saying, there's a high likelihood that if an investigation was done by the Henayrd camp, it could have been definitely influenced to go the way or the outcome that they wanted. I've actually been in that situation where I was doing an investigation. It was an internal investigation. And I got pressured where they was like, oh, you sure it's like not this or that, or what about this? And I was like, look, nah, this is what it is. I can't bend the facts. The facts are what they are. Yeah. They say allegedly found a drug in an exam at a hospital, but not positive. All right, so let's get into this audio recording. Remember, this is just a random audio recording. We don't know who the persons are because this audio recording hasn't been authenticated. You all just make your own decision when you hear it. Let's go ahead and pull it up. And shout out to Jed over at Investigate and Advocate. I'm sure y'all all familiar. Y'all go check out his YouTube channel. I couldn't find a damn video on his YouTube channel because he got so many lives, and it was probably in the video that was like 2-3 hours long. And I tried to look because if I'm watching something, I want to watch it from the source, but I just couldn't find the video and where it was at in the video. I was looking over videos for the past 4 or 5 days. So I had to go to another video from a content creator, but the original content is Investigate and Advocate, Jedediah Walker. Jedediah Brown. Go ahead, check it out. He has good content. He actually had another audio recording of the plaintiff in this case, but I just didn't want to use that one because that was a little too much. But let's go ahead and listen to the audio recording.
Breaking news on YouTube.
I pray that me doing this, when I put her in greater harm, that people will show up. This will be a voice that you all decide for who it is, describing her body.
That was real smart of him to say that too. Good way to insulate yourself from any type of defamation, anything. Good job.
That motherfucker ain't like it look like, man. Like motherfucker been out fucking around. Nope. Man, that motherfucker tell you, motherfucker, man, that motherfucker got some structure. You can tell the motherfucker been fucking him, man. Ain't no motherfucker been tearing that off. Nope. Put it on the. That motherfucking mad the whole time. Still knock the fuck out. Damn. That motherfucker. Right on FaceTime. FaceTime. Right on FaceTime. Yeah, I got FaceTime. You got FaceTime? Yeah, I got FaceTime. Right on FaceTime. Yeah, that motherfucking mad the whole time. Still knock the fuck out. Damn. That motherfucker ain't like it look like, man. Like motherfucker been out fucking around. Nope. I'm saying, how you know? That motherfucker got some structure. You can tell the motherfucker been fucking him, but ain't no motherfucker been tearing that off. Nope. That motherfucker fresh. Yep.
I thought that motherfucker ain't what it looked like. Do you have FaceTime? Motherfucker still knocked out. Ain't nobody been fucking off in that like it looked like. So that was the perception of Fania.
Damn. Well, at least you got lucky. That's what's up, baby. Man, okay. So let me check on you, shit. Check on your daughter. Yeah, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to try to get up and go ahead. Man, let you up on till about 9 o'clock. Okay, y'all. Yeah.
Okay,
But you don't even have a sense to even look in our face. But you rather just steal our money and do what you want to do. It's a shame. The lawyers is looking at us, but you the mayor, and then you want to come up here. Well, I am the mayor. Yeah, we know, but you're not conducting yourself as a mayor.
All right, your 3 minutes up.
You're not
Thank
conducting yourself.
Your 3
and
minutes
you
up.
are going to jail.
Your 3 minutes is up. Thank you so much. Is there anybody else? Is there anyone else? Your 3 minutes up. All right, go ahead. You have the floor.
I want to start by saying there's nobody like the God I serve. And I only want to say that because he only allowed me to come as far as this podium. That's the only person I fear and thing I fear besides going to jail. So I'm not going to go past this point like he told me. But I only came up to here to say, because Las Vegas said what they said, because a lot of places say what they say when they say things like this. So I'm going to ask you myself, why would you do that? And if I'm lying, all these people right here on the cameras heard, all these people, tell them I'm lying then. Is that why you've never said anything? Is that why you disappeared as soon as this came out? Is that why? I'm supposed to be scared of you? Hell, motherfucking no. So tell me I'm lying, or tell them why.
All right.
All right, so this video it just goes on. That's a little older video. I'm sure most of y'all already saw that video. Hold on, let me check real quick. Yeah. It is what it is. But something like that, something like the allegations that she's alleging. I mean, people going through all sorts of PTSD and stress and trauma, and I don't know. It's hard for somebody to be calm in that situation if if the allegations that she alleges them are true. We'll just say it like that to keep everything on the up and up. Yeah, and I did hear that recording. I passed on that one. That was the other recording audio where she was crying that I thought about playing, but I was like, your comment just said what it is, as well. But let's see, who can request a copy of the alleged investigation report? You can get a copy of it. That's actually a good question. Generally, if an investigation is closed, okay, a little bit of FOIA law. Since you brought up the question, that was a good question. Generally, if an investigation is active, you can't get a copy of it. If the investigation is closed, because according to the news report, they said the investigation was closed. They didn't find anything. It was disgruntled employees, whatever. If the investigation is closed, you can do a request. You still legally, they'll probably still have a valid reason not to disclose the actual findings of the investigation, even if they get a FOIA request, because it's pending litigation surrounding it. So if it's pending litigation surrounding it, you probably aren't going to get it. And most places, I'm not sure how it's done in Illinois, but most places, like I can speak for the federal level, something like that would be upheld. If somebody sent something to an organization I work at requesting an investigation, even though that investigation is closed, if the facts related to that investigation still have some civil impact, there's still some litigation surrounding it. There's an express FOIA exemption. I can't recall which one, but there's an express FOIA exemption that will block you from receiving it. So chances are, because of the litigation, they may not be able to get that investigation. That's the likely chances of it. I'm not sure. It may be something unique. I'm speaking from a federal FOIA standpoint. I'm not a state FOIA expert, but most times the state laws track the federal guidelines. So that likely is the outcome. I would be shocked if you can do a request for something, even if it's closed, if it's pending litigation surrounding it, even at the state level. That would be crazy. The actual investigation and report was made in Vegas. That's like a real investigation with Vegas Police Department. The report that was done by Henayrd and her staff is something that happened after the fact when they were already back on their home turf, so to speak. I agree 100%. That's actually a travesty if he did in fact conduct the investigation, because I don't know. I think I agree with that 100%. Now let's go ahead and talk about some of the things that we got to talk about. First thing, I'm gonna just go. I need to go and pull up my notes because I just kind of wrote them up there. They all sloppy, but exclusionary rule. All right, exclusionary rule is exactly what it says. Evidence, if obtained illegally, is going to be excluded. However, there are some exceptions to that. Now, the next thing let's pivot into is recording rules in Nevada. Typically, you got one party jurisdiction, two party jurisdiction, and some states who have a mixed jurisdiction. Nevada, and I think it was Shadow Seeker. Shout out to Shadow Seeker. But Nevada is a mixed jurisdiction. So one party jurisdiction means, hey, if me and you are talking, I can surreptitiously record it, secretly record the conversation. It's completely unbeknownst to you, but it's one party, so I'm good. Hence the reason they tell attorneys, professionals in law school and CPAs, hey, always talk as if you're being recorded because you never know what may be recorded. But one party jurisdiction, cool. Two party jurisdictions, you need both persons who participate in the conversation to actually record it. If you don't, it's an illegal recording. It can't be used. Now, Nevada is mixed because it's a hybrid. It's a one-party communication for any recording if it's a public conversation. So if I meet you at Starbucks, I'm like, yo, let's talk about what happened. We go to Starbucks. We sitting down at Starbucks to have a conversation about it. Because we're in a public forum and it's me and you, it only requires me, one party. I could just record it. Even if you don't are completely unaware, we could use that recording in court if it could be authenticated, if we can prove that it hasn't been tampered with, if it hadn't been altered or edited, we could use that. Now, it's a hybrid because Nevada has a different rule if it's communication related to wire. So now you're talking about text messages, emails, phone communication. If it's wired communication, it requires the consent of both parties. And so I'm going to read it here. Let's see. Nevada law allows the admission of communications that were lawfully intercepted in another jurisdiction, even if the interception would violate Nevada law. In Nevada, it is illegal to record a private conversation with without the consent of all parties involved, unless the recording is made in person. So, off the break, that's going to be a very, very big problem. And we're talking about in Nevada if an actual criminal trial was going on because it was phone communication, it was wired. Because of their law, you have to have the consent of both parties. If not, it can be excluded. Now, some states do have workarounds to this. Nevada does not appear to be one. And I'm going to be honest, the states that do have the workarounds, I think they're constitutionally invalid. Just me personally. I think they're constitutionally invalid. But some states, very few states, have an exception where they'll say something to the effect of, well, we can use an audio recording that's obtained illegally if the probative value, and I'll explain it, but the language is if the probative value of that recording outweighs the prejudicial nature of the recording. So what they're saying there is if we got a recording, we're in state X, right? Nevada isn't one of these states, but some states have a rule where we're in state X. There's an illegally obtained audio recording. The court can evaluate that audio recording and say, okay, the facts related to this recording and what this recording can prove, that's the probative value. The facts and what this recording can prove outweighs how prejudicial it would be to the defendant. So because of that, because the probative value, how important the facts surrounding this recording and what this recording can prove is, outweighs how much it'll prejudice the defendant, we're going to allow it to come in. Very, 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 very few states have that. And even if a state does have that, I'm gonna just be honest. I think it's a big constitutional issue to allow for the violation of a law against a person. Because in Nevada, privately, I looked it up. An illegal recording in Nevada is like a class 3 felony with like a fine of up to $25,000. So, hey, again, don't blame the messenger. I'm just telling y'all what it is. Let me go ahead and check out this comment that popped up. So I guess what happens in Vegas really does stay in Vegas. I think they got the same impact that they wanted. I think they got the exact same impact that they wanted because the recording is already out there. The lawsuit that has the legs is the civil lawsuit that she's filing. And that civil lawsuit that she's filing for wrongful termination is going to be in Illinois. So I feel like the purpose of the recording has already served its best case scenario with regard to that civil lawsuit. But let me go ahead and read what I got here. Is it illegal to record a FaceTime or Zoom call? Although Nevada is a little muddy about recording a FaceTime, Zoom, or Skype call, it can be considered a type of wired communication. Nevada Supreme Court has ruled that both parties must consent for any wired communication conversation. So recording any FaceTime, Zoom, or Skype call is illegal if it's only one party consent. Any recording without the consent of both parties cannot be used as evidence in a court of law. Using any sort of illegal recording, electronic conversation can damage your credibility and hurt your case. Now, this doesn't apply, but I don't know. I don't use FaceTime. But on the other hand, in a real world situation, most people announce, and this is for like businesses or, sometime you'll get on the call and they'll say, this call is being recorded. And I'm just reading it because I want y'all to have all the information. On the other hand, in a real world situation, most people announce that a FaceTime, Zoom, or Skype call is being recorded. This announcement is usually said at the beginning of the call. Completely different situation. Wouldn't be the case here. Let me see. I don't know. I'm gonna be honest. I don't know what his role is and what it is that he does, but I can guarantee you, whatever it is, he's not competent and doesn't have the skill set to remotely do an investigation. And all we have to do to prove that is, let me see your investigative plan. That's the first thing you got to do when you're doing an investigative. What is the investigative plan? And I guarantee you, whatever they got probably look like shit, unless they just pulled off something online. I agree. Some people like to get investigations, and they have people do them where they know they can go a certain route. I can tell you, I don't know if he did the investigation. This is how I know the investigation is flawed. I told everybody on this channel before where I had some crazy allegations related to illegal hiring practices, and they did an investigation. Because she worked with them in such close proximity, he isn't even the right person to do the investigation because he's too close to it. If I'm in an agency and conduct occurred between employee A and employee B, I can't even investigate it. Normally, we would have to go outside. Like, we got to get somebody on the outside to actually investigate this because I personally know the parties involved. I've done internal investigations where it was given to me to do from another agency because the agency, everybody knew the parties involved, and to be objective, they had to go to an outside person, and I just lucked up or had the bad luck of being the outside person who had to do that investigation because I didn't know them. So it was more of a likelihood that I was going to be fair and impartial just based on the facts. So the facts that if he did do an investigation, that shows to me that it was inept and incompetent and completely ridiculous and a farce because he is too close to this investigation and it can't be objective. So that's how you know if he did do it, that's how you know without even looking at the investigative report that the investigation is some BS because you have to have an objective party. You see that happen all the time. The DC council member, when the council did an investigation onto him, the council didn't do the investigation. They didn't get a DC agency, the Attorney General's office or the IG office, to do it. They had to hire an independent law firm to come in and do it because of his position, his influence. It made him known within the district government. So they had to get a non-government entity to do it to be fair and impartial. Says Home allegedly asked the police officer if he had FaceTime to show him the video. Does that count as consent? Asking if you got FaceTime and consent to record are two different things. So it definitely wouldn't count. And again, the hypothetical make-believe person in the audio recording, just one. I mean, it's a good thing that people who do crimes aren't smart, because as a grown ass man, I can't understand like why you would call and whoever this hypothetical person is, why would a grown ass man call another grown ass man to talk about his, like, hey, bro, guess what I just did? Like, come on. Like, I mean, I guess it's good to have people do stuff stupidly because it gives evidence for cases to move forward. It gives a way, if it can be used as evidence, it gives a way for a jury to be tainted. But I mean, people who commit crimes just aren't smart. All right, let's go down to. All right, can I share a recorded phone call? Is it illegal to record and share a phone call? The Nevada Supreme Court has ruled it is illegal to record and share a phone call. Both parties involved must consent for it to be legal. Recording using illegal recording will not hold up in a court of law. It can damage the case. No, you cannot use illegal recordings in court. You have to have both party consent. The admissibility can be challenged. To be admissible in court, the recorder must comply with Nevada's consent law, be relevant to the case, and be genuine and unaltered. When we're talking about that, genuine and unaltered, when I say recording has to be authenticated, that's what we mean. We actually have to have experts. Like, it's even the same with like handwriting. Like, if I'm in court and me and you are arguing over a will that Meemaw made and it's in her handwriting, we have to authenticate that actual will that was written. Uh-oh. Struggle streaming. What's up? I'm struggle streaming. What's up? I'm recording. What's up? What is you getting your son? Just get me some chicken soup from there. Thanks. All right. So where was I at? Okay, so when I said that recording anything that's presented to court as evidence outside of actual testimony that's not hearsay, it has to be authenticated. So we want to know, one, how did you obtain whatever it is legally? Do we have an expert who can do a handwriting analysis with what we have on record at the DMV to confirm that this will is Meemaw's actual handwriting? Do we have any type of AI technology or automated technology that can authenticate the voice on this recording with a similarly situated voice? Because think about it, if you're a public official, let's say the hypothetical person who we don't know who it is a public official. They've been on the news. There's ample evidence out there. There's a bunch of open source audio recordings of a person's voice where AI tools can be used to authenticate if the recording in the voice in recording A matches up with what we know to be the recording of said person in recording B. But there'll be so many suppression hearings. A criminal defendant can move to suppress the illegal recording. The chain of custody is going to become an issue. Okay, you recorded this on your device. After you recorded it on your device, who has access to your device? It's going to be all sorts of questions. The defense can argue that the recording doesn't count if you can't prove that it hasn't been touched, edited, damaged, altered, or deleted. So if you got a phone, you leave your phone unlocked or it unlocks automatically when you're at home. you're going to have chain of custody issue? How do you know that this recording that you recorded on said date is in fact the same recording? It wasn't altered. It wasn't adjusted. It wasn't filtered in a manner that could be prejudicial to the defendant. All right. Illegal recording in Nevada can result in up to 364 days in jail and fines reaching $2,000. I said 25,000. I knew it was something with a 2, and civil remedies against the perpetrator. All right. Now, I did tell you some states, it appears that Nevada isn't this state, but some states do have rare instances where illegal recordings may be admissible if it is crucial in proving a crime, and there's a strong legal argument supporting its use when such recording is considered to be of significant public interest. But that doesn't look like it's in play in Nevada from the research that I did. If I find anything counter to that, but I didn't do a deep dive in the Supreme Court cases and dicta of the court, but that doesn't appear to be the case. All right. Now, the interesting thing is, well, how would this audio recording play in a criminal investigation versus court? Because we talked about how it would play in a criminal hearing. It's probably going to be inadmissible because, it's kind of the fruit of the poisonous tree document. Well, you found something that helps us, but I mean, think about it. If the government illegally found evidence of you committing a crime, you would be jumping up and down saying, man, they got that illegally. They can't use it against me. They didn't even have a right to come in. They just stormed in my place for no damn reason. So it's kind of that same concept. But now let's pull it apart and make a distinction between, okay, we kind of know how it will play out in court. Let's talk about how this audio recording would fare in an investigation. And I think where the incident occurred has a very, very big impact on it. Because if I'm an investigator and I heard an audio recording, an investigation isn't necessarily bound by the rules that would apply in court. So if I were writing an investigative report, let's say I was an investigative detective in Nevada and I was privy to this information. If I'm an investigator in Nevada and I'm privy to this information, this is going in the actual report, 100%. Now, the prosecutor is going to have to make a determination because they know that they can't use it. Now, I will tell you, I heard some things just in that audio call that sounded consistent with what was articulated in the legal case. I think the other thing that was very, very important were the names that were used or the nicknames that were used in the audio recording. I don't know if y'all caught on that. I'm sure y'all did because y'all some savvy, smart people. But a certain nickname was used, and certain individuals may or may not be known universally or within their sphere of operation as using that nickname. And if that's the case, I think that's something that strengthens the potential credibility of that audio recording, even if it's not admissible in court. So from an investigative standpoint, I think that does have significant value. I think that it should have been written in the investigative report, but because it occurred in Nevada, I can see why I can see why they punted on it. And the reason that they punted on it, how could I put this? Not all prosecutors, but some prosecutors don't want to take a case unless it's perfectly gift wrapped. All prosecutors aren't cut from that cloth, but a lot of them are. And it may not be the prosecutor personally, it could be the office. I mean, how do you think the federal government has a 97% conviction rate? Because when they're bringing cases that they know they can get a conviction on. If it's a 50-50 case, a lot of prosecutors' offices are going to be like, do we really want to bring this case? Because it's a toss-up. It's going to be a toss-up to the jury. So as terrible as a reason as it is, me personally, I'm more of a 50-50, fuck it. let's everybody, you put your facts on the table, I put my facts on the table, and let the jury decide. But every prosecutor's office isn't like that. I think that I'm not saying this is a fact, but the fact that the offense occurred and it didn't involve persons who are directly in that state could be something that's impactful. Should it be? No. A crime is a crime is a crime. And if there's facts there that could potentially show a crime occurred, you should probably move forward with it. But we got to keep it a buck. Everything isn't about what I would do, is about office politics, is about stats, is about numbers. So the fact that, man, this is a crime that occurred here, we got an audio recording, but it's going to be inadmissible in court. There's a strong likelihood that it's going to be inadmissible of court, but the audio recording does substantiate, let's say it does substantiate what a witness said. Now we got to try to, it just could be problematic. So I could see completely why it would likely be a punt. Now, I do think that, me personally, I would have went forward with the shit and just let the chips fall where it may. But a lot of officers aren't going to want to burn that capital. They probably have one, maybe two attorneys, maybe 2 or 3 investigators. Then you're talking about also the cost of getting the parties out, flying them out for court, flying out all of your witnesses. Like, you talking in investigative hours and litigation hours alone, just in salary and time and resources, hundreds of thousands of dollars. Every office is not going to want to make that commitment. And I know it sounds fucked up. I feel bad saying it, but that is some of the thoughts that go into these process. Let me go and check out the comments real quick. Let me see. All right, we got that. Holmes asked for FaceTime. Yeah. Okay. All right. Could phone records be subpoenaed? Shout out. That's a good question. Could phone records be subpoenaed? I'm fine. I hit the wrong damn button. Damn good question. Generally, yes. Phone records can be subpoenaed. That would probably be the best way to go. That being said, obtaining the FaceTime records, and I'm not sure, Apple used to be a pain in the ass, not so much now. It's not a easy thing that the records will actually be obtained from a company. And I'm gonna tell you, especially at the state level, a federal subpoena, it got way more power. So it's probably a stronger chance that I could get it pursuant to a federal subpoena. A state subpoena, unless, let me explain how it works. The state issues the subpoena. They serve the subpoena to Apple. Apple has a list. It's probably like 30 pages, because I can remember when I was in state government and I'm serving these state subpoenas, we already knew in advance what companies were going to give us fucking headaches and what companies weren't. And back in the day, this was some time ago, but Apple used to be one of the headache persons, because if you issue a state subpoena and say this is evidence of criminal activity, and the question would be, from Apple's standpoint, is this evidence of criminal activity, or is this evidence of under some circumstances, a person, is this evidence of a crime, or is this evidence of just encounter that occurred that may not be criminal? I just don't think they had the bandwidth and the pull to be able to pull that from a subpoena. State subpoenas aren't like trust me, I've been in scenarios where we issued state subpoenas to a place and they're just like, okay, we aren't going to do it. What you going to do about it? And now you're going to go through this whole thing where, okay, you don't comply with the subpoena. Now we got to go to court. We got to bring you in. It all goes back to the resources. But the answer to that is yes. A subpoena could be done for the phone records. And when you get a FaceTime or when you get your phone, I'm sure y'all do what I did. You click accept to all of these boxes and don't read the shit. And then it says somewhere in one of those boxes, we reserve the right to hold this information and distribute it according to XYZ. So yes, phone records could be subpoenaed, but I don't think a lot of states, I'm gonna be just honest, they don't have the bandwidth or the pull or the resources to fight that if there's a lot of pushback. That's just it is what it is. As fucked up as that sound, it is what it is. That it happens. I mean, if an undercover cop is recording you, you already screwed. That's a completely different scenario. Because if I'm going undercover, I already got court authority, probably to do wiretaps, to do all sorts of stuff. So the video I did where the DC council member was caught on an audio recording, the informant who wore the wire already had the authorization of the court to wear the wire. So that's a little bit different nuance because now, I mean, yeah, one of my favorite shows is The Wire. If law enforcement did a wiretap that's not approved through the court system, that shit's not coming in. And it's kind of the same concept when you're talking about this private persons because it's detrimental to the defendant that it was obtained illegally with really reckless disregard. But I don't know if y'all remember, I'm old, but on The Wire, I want to say Marlo got to keep all his money and his cases got dropped because the wiretap, it was an illegal wiretap. So a illegal wiretap can be used, but the evidence of that wiretap is going to be inadmissible in court, and that case is going to get tossed, and somebody's going to walk, and it is what it is. Let's see. Holmes asked the officer if he had FaceTime. Can the police officer iPhone be used as evidence and pulled from the iPhone, a cloud instead of a recording? Yeah, I think I talked about that. That's just going to be a hard fight. It's just going to be a hard fight. Now, some laws are changing, but I don't know if they're changing at the state level. Federal level, that shit would be obtained easy. State level, they're going to have to go to court and fight it out because, and think of it from a business standpoint. If you're Apple, right? This is Apple's position. And y'all going to say it's fucked up because we know the facts and circumstances of what this information could potentially prove or disprove. So I get it. But from Apple's standpoint is the only thing we got with all of our users is protecting their information. So we're completely for giving over information that's an evidence of a crime. But it has to be clear that the evidence is in fact evidence of a crime. So an example of where it would be easy is if you have two people sending text messages like, yo, yeah, 18.5 for one key. I'm going to give you prices from Houston, Texas back in the 90s because you my man. Something like that, they're going to look at easily and be like, here you go. Like we can look at this message and see that on its face, it's illegal. That's going to be what causes the issue with the cell phone provider. Can we look at this call on its face and see that what occurred here was illegal? If the answer to that is no, the cell phone company is going to do what if I was the attorney for the cell phone company, I would read it and be like, on his face, illegal, give it to him. I read this, and even though I'm reading this, it doesn't necessarily say on its face that it's illegal. It could have been a party. It could have been a hell of a good time. It could be illegal. If you have multiple interpretations from reading it on his face, that cell phone provider is going to be reluctant to give it up because the only thing that they got is protect it. That's paramount, protecting the privacy of their customers from things. If everything that could be interpreted as a crime is given over to law enforcement, generally people aren't going to be fucking happy about it. I know it's fucked up to say. I'm just telling y'all what it is and what I've seen in my experience. But that's how it normally plays out. Nah, it's all good. It's all good. What's going on? I appreciate you for tuning in. If the officer testified, would that be firsthand knowledge? Okay. There's I didn't want to see. Damn you! See, Ken, you're gonna ask a question that made me go into hearsay, okay? Because I actually pulled it up, but I was like, do I want to go into hearsay? Because it's kind of a deep dive. Okay, so let me see. I know I took it. I wrote some notes down about it. Let's see. Okay, so typically hearsay is defined as. God, hold on. No, real quick. Sorry. I got it. I can't. I gotta. I'm sorry. This is just everybody calling me today. Normally nobody called me. Hey, nah, I'm doing the live. You okay? Oh no, I do it. I do it. Okay, all right. Mom's calling me. I'm thinking it's something serious. She asked me for the name of some damn movie. But okay. So hearsay. Uh statement that's made out of court. Okay. i- A statement that's made out of court for the truth of the matter asserted. Could the officer potentially testify for what his firsthand knowledge was? Yes. I think I started the video out by saying that that's a possibility. Any good defense attorney is going to say whether they think is a viable claim or not. Objection, hearsay. It's an out of court statement made by, because think about it, the defendant, the whole thing that makes testimony good is you can testify as to what was said, what was told directly to you, right? But the potential to cross-examine a person to for the defense to poke holes in that testimony. So let me pull it up. I want to get a legit definition for you. And hearsay is one of those annoying things because all right. So the officer can testify. Of course, they're going to challenge it to on the hearsay. I don't think it would be a viable. I think the officer's testimony would get in. Bottom line, but I would challenge it if I was a defense attorney. I would say it's an out of court statement used for the truth of the matter asserted. The problem is, it's not an out of court statement by a third party. It's an out of court statement heard by an individual who's here to testify directly from the defendant in the case. So I think the officer testimony would be able to come in. Um, yeah, I feel fairly confident, and that's how I started out. Somebody asked that question early on, and excuse me, that was the very first thing I said. I think the officer's direct testimony would be able to come in and prevail over any hearsay and or constitutional challenge because it's not from a third party. So I think I could just leave it at that and just leave it as yes. That's crazy if those people were part of the investigation. All right, now I did want to talk. So for purposes of trial, likely inadmissible. Authent can't we haven't authenticated it. We got to look at the chain of custody. It was obtained unilaterally by one party, and Nevada has that quirky rule where if it's a public setting, it only needs one party consent. If it's wired communication, you need the consent of both parties. So likely not coming in. Now, could it be used in investigation? The answer is yes. If it were me doing the investigation, I would use it and just present the prosecutor with all the information so they can make the determination. But for political reasons, for resource reasons, as terrible as this is, for reasons. Oh my God, my son. He getting on my nerves. I could tell that he did something to getting on my nerves right now as we speak. Give me 1 second. Kids, man. All right. So where was that? So for purposes of the investigation, I would have used it, but for political reasons, resource reasons, they probably didn't use it. This sounds terrible to say, but think about it. State prosecutors, the prosecutors, police officials, they're elected, they're appointed. If they were citizens of Vegas, they probably would have kept that damn investigation open. Because these are citizens, these are people who vote. This is something directly tied to their community. But I feel fairly confident that they looked at that investigation and said, man, it might be something here, but we got to fly these damn people in. We got to do all this extra stuff. For a 50-50 case, we're going to keep allocating resources to it. Now, they reserve the right to open that investigation up at any time, but I just seriously don't think I think they were happy. I think the folks in Vegas were happy to get that shit out of their head so they don't have to worry about it and they can leave it in civil court. Now, I do think it's beautiful that the audio was released of the unnamed persons who in the audio was referred to as I do think it's beautiful that it was released for a civil lawsuit because she has a wrongful termination case in Illinois. Again, legal principles are violated, such as we're going to focus on retaliation for certain protected actions. She was terminated. She asserts she was terminated for retaliation for protected action. What was the protected action? Whistleblower disclosing some type of wrongful conduct that occurred. She disclosed it. She was ultimately terminated. I think it is absolutely beautiful. I think the officer's testimony is going to be beautiful. I think the audio recording, even if it doesn't come into play on the civil side, that civil case is going to be held with a jury of people who are local, who know the area, who are familiar with the story, who probably watches Jed's channel and heard their damn audio and already made their own determination. So I don't know who was the reason behind the leak, but for the civil case, I think it's definitely 100% going to help in that aspect, in that regard. All right, let's see. Let me go through some of these comments real quick. Let's see. Audio and video AP they for Illinois for Nevada purposes is considered wired communication. Anything wired, phone, emails, text, and if it's considered wired, it automatically triggers two-party consent. I don't know. I didn't look if there was a statute. No, I think I did. I think there's no statute of limitation in Nevada. I think I did actually look. I don't think there's a statute of limitation in Nevada for that particular crime. Let's see what we got here. Okay, Nevada Office of the Attorney General. What's the statute of limitations for SA in Nevada? Okay, there's no statute of limitations to bring a Nevada SA charge where there is DNA evidence of the suspect or police report filed within 20 years of the incident. Okay. All right, so yeah, they got some time to still bring it. That's interesting. Yeah, and so in Nevada, there's no statute of limitations to bring an SA charge where there's DNA evidence of the suspect, or an alternative, a police report is filed within 20 years of the incident. So yeah, okay. Let's see. Hey, Dalton Rising. I know I saw Jed talk about that. I hope these elections and everything happen in February, and all that shit just changed. I just hope everything work out, because it's actually terrible that this is happening. Exactly. Hey, the court of public opinion has decided, and you know what's beautiful about that? The court of a public opinion is going to be the people who make up the jurors in the civil case. So I think in a civil case, she's going to get an easy W. She doesn't have to convince all 12 of the jurors. She only has to convince 6 plus 1, half plus 1. She don't have to convince 7 out of 12 people that this did happen. All of the jurors seeing what's going on. They're seeing her go to these trustee meetings and confront this guy. So I think she's definitely going to get a W, if I had to guess, in a civil lawsuit. And it's going to be a large amount of money that's going to have to be paid. And they probably should figure out the insurance situation, because the insurance is going to be on the hook for paying that money. And that's interesting. Now, see, damn it. See, y'all just made me think of something, like the village, the trust is, it's so much, yeah. But it's I'm confusing the two. But yeah, I think she's gonna 100% be Gucci. She's gonna 100% be Gucci on the civil side. He can hand over his phone, but like, if I record you doing something goofy and you don't know it, and the cops ask me about it and I hand over the phone, does that mean they should be able to use it against you? Like, you got to separate how horrible the alleged act is from balancing what's fair. And I know that's difficult to do. I've had difficulties doing it as an attorney. I've represented some people, and I was like, man, this dude's a fucking low life and probably should be stoned. Like, literally, that's how it is. But the justice is a sword that has edges on both sides, and you have to uphold fairness for the plaintiff. You have to uphold fairness for the defendant. And once you start violating fairness for the defendants, everybody is all for it when they think it's an injustice, until they start violating your rights and you're the defendant. You're like, man, I was made a defendant and I shouldn't have been a defendant. I didn't know. Or, so it's hard to do. I get it, but you got to be able to make that separation. Interesting. If it goes free, no sex crimes will occur. Yeah. No. Why would you call that? Like, I don't know. I'm interested in what type of relationship. Let's just answer. This is an interesting question, because okay, whoever's on the audio, as they refer to as Unc, we'll just leave it at that, because that was the name that was used on the audio. It's just, I'm interested in the relationship between that officer and him. Like, how comfortable was the relationship with him and that officer where he could just call and just do that? Unless Unc, whoever that is, on the audio recording, just is, I mean, some people are just that stupid. Like, I gotta call somebody. Let me call the person who I'm here with to talk about it. But like, I don't know. That's ridiculous. But hey, shout out to dumb criminals for doing stupid things, because then it allows the victims in those cases to get a win, preferably criminally, but in civil aspects too. Perhaps this is why the investigation was closed so easily, because if I'm not mistaken, the audio and the video evidence came after the fact. Yeah. Even if it came after the fact, they just couldn't use it. Like, they couldn't use it. And like I said, most prosecutors aren't going to want to do a 50-50. I appreciate it. Appreciate that. If most prosecutors aren't going to want to take a 50-50 trial. I think that's kind of chicken shit. Personally, yeah, I mean, I took 50. If I think I can prove the case, I'm gonna roll with it. But sometimes it's not unilaterally up to the prosecutor who prosecuting the case. The chief prosecutor, the ADA, the attorney general may be like, what the fuck are you doing? Why are you doing this case? And it's a 50-50 case for some people who out of town. Like, no, we not doing this. We're not wasting these resources. Let's see. Yeah, he's not hearsay because it's not a. He's not telling. If I go out and tell what someone else told me who's not a party, that's one thing. Like, oh, I heard from this person that this individual said that. That isn't this scenario. Yeah. Yeah, I have some. I would like to know the scope of the relationship between the officer and the person on this tape because I'm not just calling some random co-worker or government worker who happened to accompany me on a trip to tell them some stupid shit. Like, I don't know. I don't know. Yeah, I agree. I agree with that. The officer testimony should hold up. I think in the civil case it's going to be a easy. Now, I do think if this had this occurred in the home state, I think the investigation would have probably still been going on, and I I, I think it could have been likely that criminal charges, if people were, I mean, this Illinois, I don't know, but I think it would have been a much higher likelihood that the investigation would at least still been ongoing, or criminal charges would have come into fruition. But the fact that it was an out of state thing, it just makes it much more difficult. Let's see. Uh, Is I don't know if it could be reopened. You could reopen an investigation for anything. It's not like a criminal indictment. I've They could get new evidence. Any new evidence could be justification for reopening an investigation. So that's quite possible. And to reopen an investigation is literally not a big deal. Is oh wait, we got new evidence. Maybe talk to two or three people, have a meeting. Let's take a second look at this. Open a new case file number up, a new investigative file up, and we're going to look at everything from scratch. So that's quite possible. What type of charges can she get on this? Well, I mean, one of the easier ones that I would think of if would be an obstruction charge. If if you do a half-ass, bogus, biased, non-objective investigation to a criminal matter, and on its face, that investigation looked like some bullshit, like easily the first thing that jumps off is an obstruction charge. Another thing you can get a is actually beautiful because you can get an obstruction charge, you can get a conspiracy charge. If think about it, two or more persons with a common scheme to do something that's criminal. So if again we don't we're going off of speculation, but if let's say if Tiffany Henayrd in fact did get her boyfriend to do the investigation, now you got like okay, we got two people. Were there incentive for them to stir this investigation a certain direction? So you could definitely probably get a conspiracy and obstruction of justice charge. Um, those are the two offhand that I could think of. He wouldn't show up there. Oh, that actually brings up a good point. I appreciate you for saying that. That actually brings up a good point because I did do a reaction video to a video that was done by my guy. That was a good comment. Shout out, time for you for that comment and a round of applause. He did a great job of covering the Dalton stuff, what's going on with Henyard and Thornton Township. A much better job than me. Like, hey, shout out to him. But I did do a reaction video because that video we watched in the beginning where the victim approached him during this town meeting and she had her 3 minutes to talk. And he was adamant about, hey, you should say something. You should say something. Again, I'm not trying to, hey, I'm just calling it down the middle, how I see it from both sides. Good. I called it good for a side. I called it bad for a side. And he was like, if you didn't do anything, you should be jumping up and down. And I was like, no, if you didn't do anything, you should be quiet. If you did do something, you should be quiet. And hindsight is 2020. But could you just imagine had he said, I deny everything that occurred. None of this even happened. I don't know what it is. And then when this recording came out, he would be, I mean, it's one thing to be screwed, but it would just hold him in such a bad light. I mean, the light is already bad, but much worse than what it could already potentially be. So I think that's one of the reasons why, even if you did something, shut up. If you didn't do something, shut up. Because had he made a statement saying that, I don't know what she talk about, and I deny this, none of this ever happened. And now this audio recording is released, and let's say the court of public opinion is like, okay, we believe it to be him. Now you have just put yourself in a corner. Because now what the argument is going to be, if this were to come up, let's just say criminal context charges were filed. Your original argument would be this never happened. But in a criminal context, if this guy, the officer, get on the stand and testify, the next argument is going to be that he would make is, no, it wasn't a crime. We went out, we had a good time, we had some drinks. He's going to try to argue that it wasn't criminal because it was consensual. Because now you've already put the victim, when you're proving something in court, you have to prove everything. So if you're saying that this occurred, you have to prove that, one, we were in the same place, we were actually in this room, and they would have to prove all of that. Now, with that testimony, or if the audio were actually authenticated and found to be admissible, they wouldn't have to prove any of that stuff now. So he would have painted himself in the corner. So he did himself a solid. I think, honestly, Tiffany Henayrd did him a solid, because he looked like in that video he wanted to actually say something. And I think Tiffany Henayrd kind of was like, nah, bro, just let her talk. So I think Tiffany Henayrd actually did him a solid for what it's worth, because had he said anything, he probably would have said something that would have made the situation a lot worse than what it is. And it's already a terrible situation to be in. Let's see. Oh, what does Tiff have on Chad? She can't turn. Hey, I don't know. I think I watched some of his videos and I tuned into some of his live streams. I think he does a good job of, you got to try to insulate yourself from things that could be seen as defamatory. It's hard to do it's hard to do. Like, it's a little bit easier for me because I look at things in hindsight. After they have a meeting, you never see me report live on the meeting. I wait till after they have a meeting. Then after they have a meeting, I wait till kind of the dust settles, the news video reels come out, and then I can kind of evaluate and report on what's already been being reported in the media. So certain things have been substantiated. It's a lot more difficult, and I think he's doing a good job. But when you have a channel where you're not only reporting, but you're trying to get evidence to get to the bottom of what's going on, and all of that is happening in conjunction with litigation that's occurring, it's a very tight rope to walk. And one slip, you can open yourself up to real serious litigation consequences. So I definitely hope that he keeps, from the videos I've seen, he'd appeared to be doing a good job of kind of insulating himself, and I hope he can keep that up. Yeah, like, who does that? Like, I wouldn't even no, like, what is this? Like, boomerang? Like who calls after something like that? Like, so I would love to know the nature of their relationship, because like, if you're comfortable telling somebody something like that, I don't know. It's just a question that I have, and if I have that question and y'all have that question, I know a jury gonna be like, yeah, that. I mean, that would be the first question I have on cross examination. Like literally, I think that's a great point. Let's say the officer gets up there and the officer testifies, right? And he says, "Oh, he called me and I made a recording, but he said this." The officer gets up there, testify as to everything. Once you're on that stand, now you're about to get the smoke. And cross examination is the funnest part of litigation. They're gonna go up there and be like, so he called you, right? And how many trips besides this one have you all been on together?" Like they're gonna jump into his character so much, and I mean, I don't know. They're gonna attack his credibility so much. Oh, because that would be the first thing I would say. I'd be like, okay, so you're telling the jury that this guy called and felt completely comfortable conveying that a potential or alleged crime occurred, and he's comfortable. Well, why is he so comfortable doing that with you? Or why would he be? That would be odd, right? You don't think that would be odd? I don't know. If I committed a crime, the only person I'd be comfortable with telling is somebody who's a co-conspirator. I mean, that's gonna be the route that they're gonna go, and they're gonna try to beat dude in the bushes. And hey, everybody think they can handle the press until they up there, and there's a jury looking at you. It's people in the audience, random media folks taking notes. Some brother in the corner drawing your picture. That strobe light on you. It is a different ball game when you up there. I don't know. I think I don't know if it was. That's a good question, because I know he was dismissed when these allegations came up. I think it's just I don't know. It I would like to think if there was similar allegations from his if there was similar allegations that they had to deal with for similar issues, they would have brought. I don't know. If I'm an organization designated, the whole goal of my nonprofit is to address victims, and I have a community advocate here, and one of his complaints is similar to this. Oh nah, it's not only is his ass about it here, I'm going to the news and telling all that. I think it was more of an optics thing. Like, how the hell are you gonna be a victim advocate and you potentially could be out here creating victims because of your conduct? Like, nah, that's the I think it was likely an optics thing, and it just smells bad. You're gonna look at it and be like, that don't make any damn sense. Wait, what? Who's engaged to Helen? Helen, yeah. Interesting. That might be. Yeah, if they flew back, that could be interesting. They could have flown back for a lot of reasons. They could. That's interesting. I don't know if I would be able to. The only way you can confirm that the investigation is open is when they come out and say that it's done. Because nobody's going to ever be like, if they come out and say we've expressly reopened it, but nobody's going to, even if you did a FOIA request for that investigation, they're going to give you, it's called a GLOMAR response. A GLOMAR response means you're doing a FOIA request, and if we deny your request, that could be saying that an investigation is open, and we may not want the parties being investigated to know that it's open. So a GLOMAR request is one of those, we neither confirm nor deny the existence of the records that you're seeking. And that's a nuanced way of saying, you asking for something, if we deny it, that may be telling that it actually exists. And the nature of this investigation, the secrecy of the investigation is so important, we're just going to do a GLOMAR response. We neither confirm or deny the existence of the record. So you don't know if we have it, you don't know if we don't. It would be like, hey, I want to send a FOIA request to the ATF for all files related to Operation Shoebox. If there is an Operation Shoebox, why the hell would they tell me? So they're going, oh, we're just going to glomar that. We're not going to confirm or deny the existence of the records that you're seeking. But yeah, there's no real way to see if an investigation is done because that's an internal thing that's not subject to open source. And that's actually, I'm not going to say it's common, but it's not uncommon where I know an instance of an officer who was like I should do a video on it. I actually went to high school with this dude, but this dude was like a police officer, and it was a young woman who was a victim in an SA type crime. And the officer actually ends up assaulting the victim, I believe was a minor at the time. And of course, he was arrested. Dude like jumped off a bridge or some shit. It was wild. And I'm gonna be honest, like that dude was weird as fuck. I was like, if somebody told me when I heard it, I was like, he was kind of awkward, you know. I agree. I agree. Let's see. People don't remember those recordings out a long time ago. Hey, that's the perfect time to refresh them. This civil lawsuit might be about to get jumping. Okay, let's see. Wouldn't having a conversation being recorded while on FaceTime, you're technically in person and allowed? Nah, that's it. So you think of recording is in person? Nah. It's called wired communication. If it's anything over the airwaves, the internet, it's going to automatically trigger that statute. I see where you're going. Like I see what your argument is. If you're on FaceTime, you generally know that even if not me and you on FaceTime, you should know that this is being recorded, if not by me, by the holder of the record, which would be Apple or whoever, Samsung, whoever got the damn holder of the records would be the phone company. So I definitely see where you're going, but that wired has a strict definition, and it's going to be the reason that I'm going to tell you why it's actually not a dumb rule. Okay. The reason that it's one party in public is because when you're in public, and I get it, even when I say this, is going to kind of go back to your point. But the reason for this distinction, be that as it may, is that in the public setting, you have no reasonable expectation of privacy. So if me and you sitting at the table having a conversation and I'm recording you, or we at a game talking and the person I'm recording the conversation, or we somewhere talking, but the person beside me can hear the conversation, what reasonable expectation of privacy do I have? That's why they lowered it to, well, if you're in a public place, because of the nature of a public place, there's no reasonable expectation of privacy. So because of that, we're going to lower the standard where only one party needs to. Now, I know your argument is going to be, and hey, you're doing a good job, co-counsel. Well, there's no reasonable expectation of privacy on a FaceTime call. But let's see, if I'm on a FaceTime call with my grandma, because my grandma just found out she had some severe illness, do I have a reasonable expectation of not being recorded, not by the company, but by the other persons on the phone? Yeah, like I think it's kind of that phone booth theory. You know what I mean? If it used to give this example in law school. If I'm at a payphone out in public and I'm having a conversation, like, no, there's no reasonable expectation of privacy. If I'm in a phone booth, it's public, but I'm in a phone booth and the door is closed. It's a little bit more reasonable expectation of privacy, but it's still public. If I'm on my cell phone in my car, so I think that's the distinction that they're trying to make. And wired communication, I think there's an expectation of it being potentially recorded by the holder of the records, by the person who's the custodian of those records, but the actual individuals having a conversation, no. So I think that's where the court went with it. I can't say for certain, But I think that's where the court went with it. Let's see. All right, let's see. I want to make sure I cover everything. What's going on, Pretty Eyes? I see you in the chat. Oh, he got engaged. Hey, that's funny. I don't know. I don't know what that's going to help. You know, it might help. I mean, the only thing I can think of is this is the only thing legally I can think of. That's actually maybe a separate video I may pre-record to put out there. Why would he get married? One, out of love, right? Let's just say, hey, love is a beautiful thing. You love somebody. We want to do these nuptial things. That's number one. When I hear that you're getting married and you have all of this spectrum of allegations going on, I'm just going to marital privilege. Maybe you told this woman something about the situation of the night of the facts related to Vegas, and now you don't want this woman to be compelled to testify against you. So if you tie the knot, you have spousal privilege, and she doesn't have to testify against a spouse. I don't know. I'm not saying that's the case. It could genuinely be love. You know, hey, he could have found love. She could have found love. But that's not given the first thing that I hear. That's funny. He got engaged. I'm gonna do a separate video. He got engaged. What could this mean legally? But it could be I immediately think of a spousal privilege. You see that all the time. I've represented and prosecuted and investigated some peer persons, and you get somebody and they pillow talk, you know, they like, oh baby, let me tell you what happened. We was out in Vegas, and like, you know, it could not be, he could have told her some of the facts, not all of the facts, but some of the facts he told her could, if she discloses them, it could tie up some loose ends. Like, okay, we know this happened. He could have said something. Let's say, I know she was unable to locate her wallet. This is an example, hypothetical. This didn't happen, but she was unable to locate her wallet. She had to go to Lost and Found. What if he told his girlfriend something about the wallet that kind of tied together a piece in the story to the facts as we know them related to this investigation? So I don't know. Like, it's actually a common thing. Longtime girlfriend, or you know, you having pillow talk, charges come down. You like, oh, I don't want you to snitch on me. Let's tie the knot. Let's go and go to the justice of the peace and do this damn thing, girl. So that's what I'm thinking when I hear that he got married. Holmes and the cop traveled a lot together. They travel a lot together. I traveled a lot of places. I traveled a lot of places for work with coworkers on multiple occasions, to conferences, to conduct interviews, litigation, all sorts of things. But that's still wild. They got a really weird. It's just weird. It's just weird to be. There's a level of comfort there. It's a level of comfort there to, if he gets on the stand and testify about that, it's going to be attacked. He just needs to be prepared for it. Let's see. It was assumed that he was married, then discovered that he isn't. So apparently, this past weekend he got engaged. Hey, shout out to Helen for finding the love of her life. I'm talking. Hey, I just see spousal privilege. What did he tell her? What did she know? Y'all said it was assumed he was married, so this probably been a long-term likely thing, and not like he just met her over the weekend or something. That could be it too. That could be another. It could be the Cosby method. You know, him and Camille filed for divorce, and all those assets was moved, and you know, when Cosby got out of custody, who picked him up? Camille. It could be a few things legally that it could be. It could be protecting assets from civil litigation. That's a possibility. That's a good possibility. That's a damn good point too. Shout out to you. Hey, shout out to you, co-counsel. Good point. It could be that as well. That's a good point. I didn't even put that one together. Lucky lady. Right, right. Yeah, that's a hey. I don't know. It's interesting. But I think that's how it works out. So here's the recap. Likely, very, very, very likely, I would feel fairly confident that inadmissible for any criminal thing. So it's not coming in for any criminal aspect. Inadmissible for purposes. I don't know. Wait, I gotta look. I gotta look to see if Illinois has the same law that Nevada had. Because some states do have a law, and I read it when we started this. So this is going to be interesting. All right. When we're talking about the civil case, likely inadmissible, but some states, because we saw early on, Nevada had a law where if a recording was obtained illegally in another state, but the probative value of that recording is paramount to what's at issue, will allow it. That's an exception. So I'll look it up to see if I'm not about to do it right now. I'm about to go get my food. But if Illinois has a law like that, and the recording was made in Nevada, then it may be able to come in for that civil aspect. That'll be interesting to see if they have a law like that. I'll look to see if they got a law like that. But we know Nevada has a law like that. You have an illegal recording that was done in Virginia. If that recording is paramount to what we're arguing over at trial, it's coming in Nevada. So maybe Illinois have a law that's like that as well. But so if they have a law like that, that'll be beautiful. If they don't have a law like that, I think the release of the audio has already served its purpose, because in the civil case for the wrongful termination, it's going to be in the home. They're going to have home court advantage. The jurors are going to be hometown people. They're going to probably know about the audio recording. And so I think it's going to be a high probability that she's going to win that case and that she's going to get broke off from a monetary standpoint. With regard to the actual investigation that Vegas is doing, audio could be considered because it's an investigation. In an investigation, you use all the information you have available, and a prosecutor determines what evidence used in that investigation can be admissible at court. So possibly impactful. I think it was closed because, like I said, too many variables. Out-of-town parties. The recording may not be admissible during the criminal trial, so it's likely a 50-50 thing. Do we want to allocate resources to something that's 50-50? Now, if they flew back out to Vegas, it could be reopened, but there's really going to be no way of knowing unless they expressly say that we reopened the investigation. Let's see. Yeah, he congratulated him at the Dalton meeting. Shout out to him for putting his foot to the ground and his nose to the ground, his ear to the ground, all of that stuff to find out what's going on. But that's it for this video. Hey, it is what it is. I don't want to be the bearer of bad news, but for a criminal trial in Nevada where it happened, it's probably not coming in. Civil trial in Illinois, wrongful termination, might come in if they have an exception that allows for illegally obtained recordings to be used if the facts and the nature of that recording are paramount to what's at issue. That's it. Yo, I appreciate everybody who tuned in, who hung in here. Y'all be safe. Hey, I appreciate y'all staying up late with me. I'm going to give all y'all a round of applause because I know everybody say they appreciate it. Allow me this time, and I'm very grateful and humbled and blessed. Y'all take care. Have a good night. Peace.